Everybody, welcome to the ReCoop. I'm Cooper Daniels, and today I have Jonty Kay. He is the co-founder of Algo Foundry, Undercurrent Capital, and a lot of other things. There's a lot going on with you in Algo Foundry, but anyway, we're going to dive into it. How are you doing, Jonty?
Very good, Coop. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Good to see you, mate.
Yeah, man. We were just talking about, you're in Singapore, correct?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. And we were talking, it's 6 a.m. for me, and it's 9 p.m. for you. So
yeah.
You've had dinner and I'm drinking coffee. Cheers.
Perfect. We're all good to go.
Yeah, you know, when you first signed on, I was like, wow, this guy, are you born and raised in Singapore?
I was born and raised in Singapore.
Wow. So did you go to school? Did you go to school in the state? I mean, or in England or something? Because your accent is almost, you can't even tell.
So I got sent away for school when I was younger. So okay. I did a stint in Australia for high school. And then I was actually out in California for university. I went to Cal Lutheran in Thousand Oaks.
Oh,
yeah,
down the street.
Oh, you're right there. Okay, awesome.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm in Los Angeles, but you know, Thousand Oaks isn't so far away.
Yeah, well, I mean, after my first year, I lived out in LA and commuted. So
cool.
Yeah, good drive every day.
Yeah, right. How long ago was that?
Well, I was there 2002 to 2006.
Okay, cool.
So a while ago.
All right.
But nice. I was going to say, I sounded like this. I guess my accent actually comes more from my family, though.
Okay.
So my grandmother and her family were taken in by the church, when she was a child, like long time ago. And back then, it was all English missionaries, and she grew up in the church, and I guess she learned to speak English from them. Mm-hmm. And she eventually worked as a secretary for the Archbishop or the Bishop in Singapore till she retired. And so, she had a very, I wouldn't say a strong English accent, right. but she had an accent growing up. And then passed down to my mom and her siblings, and kind of half my generation sounds a little bit funny too. So, carried over.
Is this church from how many years ago? This must
have been in like the 1930s, 20s.
Okay, yeah. Well, there you go. Cool. So you're based in Singapore, and before we dive into your story, there's a lot going on. I mean, it seems like Singapore is the hub of a lot. I woke up today, I think Coinbase just got a license in Singapore. It's fully regulated. There's been some stablecoin regulation that's happened recently in Singapore. Obviously, Three Arrows Capital, they just arrested Suzu. So there's, I mean, what's the climate there right now? How are you feeling being based out of there? Is it hopeful? Is it exciting? What are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I think, Singapore has always been a financial hub.
Yeah.
And, we've been, I think, quite nimble, trying to keep up with the times. Being a small country, you gotta be quick on your feet. Mm-hmm. And when, digital assets started becoming a thing, the government took notice pretty early. Right. They've always had an open mind. It's never been too open. I mean, it's not like you can do anything you want. This isn't the Wild West. But they've never said like, no. And they've kept it a kind of an open playing field for people to explore.
Right.
So we've always, and there's a big trading environment here, right? Lots of market makers are based here. Lots of trading desks, family offices are based here. Mm-hmm. So I think that drives a lot of the momentum. There's always events. There's always, things going on in Singapore. But I'd say the building community's gotten stronger in the last, 2 years.
Right.
There's a lot of VCs that have also opened up venture studios internally. Mm-hmm. So it's quite a hub, with a lot of good vibes, similar to Hong Kong right now, actually.
Right. Yeah, I was reading recently the guy that just got, I mean, I know that the president is more of a ceremonial position, but the guy that just got elected as the president used to be the head of the central bank. And just to your point, he's been a bit dismissive of digital assets in the past, but at the same time, he's like, yeah, but we shouldn't be regulating things, that we should let it just play out. It was basically it seemed to be his position from what I was reading. So, I mean, I don't know. It's like they don't want to get that unlike the United States, where it seems like they want to have their hands in everything, they're more like, let's let this play out a little bit. Let's not let money laundering happen, and let's make sure stable coins are actually backed.
Yeah, pretty much that's a good summary. I mean, there's some regulation that's out there. So like
Right.
they went down the payment licensing route,
Mm-hmm.
largely because when digital assets first came out, it's primarily crypto for trading, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not so much blockchain technology for what it can be.
Right.
And so they were really looking at just protecting investors, especially retail guys, from not getting burnt. From ensuring that they um, have some form of control of that.
Right.
But otherwise, also giving people the space to explore, and not be afraid to try. I think
Right.
that's important. Yeah.
Yeah. Not be afraid to try. I mean, yeah. There's. But there is confusing things that happen, and I'll drop. I mean, we can change the subject soon. This is just something that I'm kind of interested in right now. But like, for example, I know you guys at Algo Foundry work closely with the Algorand Foundation, and they've been in a bit of a legal battle with Three Arrows Capital. I think that they're trying to recoup like $50 million or something from Three Arrows Capital, and a court recently decided that, or maybe something's changed since then, but I do remember something along the lines of the court saying that stable coins aren't money. So then like the foundation's claim isn't won't go forward because they don't so I'm just like everywhere else, there's some confusing stuff.
Yeah. I mean, we're all still sorting it out, right? We're
Yeah.
all still trying to navigate the waters. But I mean, I actually read a little bit about the foundation stuff when it came out, and
You're right.
I mean, in that case, I think the foundation is actually not trying to recoup any money per se, because
Oh,
they did an OTC deal where they got paid like I don't know how much, right? Like 50 million
right.
bucks or something like that. But the terms of the deal were that they had to be locked and they couldn't, sell the tokens beforehand, right?
Right.
And so, because the Three Arrows guys probably did that and then broke that clause, I think the foundation kind of, if we don't make a claim, then everybody's not going to respect, that clause whenever we sign it, right? So,
Right.
so that's why they submitted the claim. But I don't think there's actually any financial loss in that.
Got it.
So the
Okay.
foundation is, safe per se.
Oh, okay. So it's Three O's Capital didn't live up to their side of the deal, and if the foundation just lets that go, and they obviously dumped when they weren't supposed to, and they were supposed to hold this for a longer time, and that's why you get a deal in an OTC trade, right? Is that right when there's terms.
Yeah.
So okay, so they got paid. They just they didn't honor the deal. Gotcha. And so
Yeah.
that makes it a little more complicated in the courts as well. So the judges
Yeah.
are looking at that, and they're
Yeah.
yeah, okay, all right.
Because I
Moving
mean,
on.
I guess there are people there who actually did get burned and have financial loss, right? And
Yeah,
so, like, where do you stand in that, like, rank order of priority to get paid?
right.
If you already did receive your money. So I don't know. But I mean, this is not me with like any knowledge. This is just what I read on the internet, right? So
Well, I mean, and totally, and this is just me reading. I mean, the articles that I read about it certainly wanted me to think, or they thought when they were writing it that the foundation was out $53 million, but really, it's a OTC deal, like gone,
yeah,
gone bad.
yeah,
Cool. All right. Well, let's talk about you, and let's talk about Algo Foundry, and let's talk about your journey. So yes, you do. I mean, the Algorand Foundation. Speaking of the foundation, is out of Singapore as well. I know you guys work closely with them. So let's talk about Algo Foundry and how you came to Algorand and this deal, and this partnership.
yeah. So I mean, we founded the company in 2018, and when we first were into it, it was kind of I don't want to say stone age of crypto, but the tech wasn't advanced yet, right?
Right.
We were just looking at it in terms of payment systems. And I got introduced to it because some close friends of mine in Singapore were kind of like early OG guys in Algorand.
Mm-hmm.
One of my childhood friends is actually the lawyer who set up the entity, Sherwin, for the foundation.
Oh.
And that's how I heard about them. And then it just so happened that one of my very, very close friends from Korea had reached out to me and said, "Hey, look, I know you guys are running a development studio now. I'm looking to build some stuff, and I heard of this amazing chain called Algorand, which hasn't launched yet. It wasn't even out of mainnet yet, right?"
Yeah.
And he was like, let's explore and see if we can build some stuff together. And so we, you know, came up with some ideas with him, actually built them. Um, Unfortunately, none of them really took off. But it gave us a lot of good expertise to learn and to how to code in Teal. And we built out a team or a couple of teams that can code in Teal.
Mhm.
And then one day, about 2 years, when was this? 2021. Um, I met Ryan Tarablini from the foundation because he came to our office together with that friend of mine, Sherwin, and that's how we got introduced. And when he discovered that we were the tech team that built some of those projects, he was like, "Oh, finally!" Like he had met my friend who had fronted it, but he never knew who was the developers, and we never applied for a grant or anything because my friend was privately wealthy and he paid for most of the development.
Right.
So Ryan was pleasantly surprised. We were pleasantly surprised to meet him, and we got along really well.
Hmm.
We kept talking for a couple of months, and then because we were able to train a couple of teams of developers, the conversation started around, hey, can you guys do education material? Because we need more developers. So
Right.
how do we train? Can you train developers for us? And then that was kind of the building blocks of how we thought about Algo Foundry. And then we thought, hey, when we train these developers, we got to give them something to do. So
Right.
and so then we were already running the dev studio, which was turning into a venture studio. So he said, "Do you think you can do a venture studio together with it for Algorand?" We were like, "Yeah, absolutely."
Yeah.
So the Algo Foundry, which was founded in January of 2022,
Hmm.
officially, is actually a joint venture between the Algorand Foundation and ourselves.
Okay. Yeah.
So we've co-funded stuff together, and so we started with the training, and
Hmm.
that's been quite interesting, very very eye-opening. Um, it took us a while because when we were doing the curriculum for our own team, it's kind of like
Hmm.
a hodgepodge. Like, yeah, go look at this GitHub, and
Yeah.
when we actually had to turn it into curriculum, we were like, okay, how are we gonna do this, right? So we appointed a couple of guys to just do it full time, record videos. But I think the key thing about it was we were quite keen on doing a certification. You know,
Right.
I think most education right now in the space is just here's how you do it, go and do it, right?
Right.
Um, we were quite keen on assessing people because that's what we do with our own guys before we actually give them projects,
Right.
to make sure that there's a certain level of um, familiarity or knowledge before you give them real work.
So
Um,
so so wait, this is so just to recap where you are right now. So in 2018, you hear about this great technology from your buddy, a longtime friend of yours,
I'd
and
say early 2019, early 2019 or so.
early 2019. So this is right around mainnet. This is right as Algorand's launching. You guys build some things. They don't really take off. Later on, you meet Ryan Tarablini, and he's like, "Wait, you guys are the ones that built those things, but there were the things that didn't take off." But he was aware of those,
Yes. Yeah.
and then you're based out of Singapore. Algorand needs more developers, and you start Algo Foundry, which initially is an educational platform for developers, basically. That's where we're
Yes.
at, right? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then, but it evolves into so many other different things and a lot of different, I guess, is from this educating of developers is how you get all these different platforms that you built.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean,
Cool.
like the idea was once you've got these guys, you got to find work for them to do as well, right?
Yeah.
And so the original company, which is Undercurrent Capital,
Hmm.
we are a multi-chain venture studio.
Right.
So we have experience with other chains, and we have experience in, I'd say, building out or working with founders to build out new startups and ideas.
Right.
So we tag that on with the Algo Foundry to also run a venture studio that's dedicated to Algorand projects.
Got it.
Yeah, so some of the developers that have passed through have in fact turned into staff that work together with us on some of these projects. It's been actually quite a fulfilling process seeing that loop, you know.
Yeah. What were you doing before Algorand? You said were you on different chains or were you in Web 2 or what was happening in 2018, 17 and before 2019?
Well, I mean, I was actually a consultant with GSK for a very long time,
Okay.
company, and then when we started the development studio in 2018, we were primarily developing on Ethereum. Most of the other chains hadn't come out yet. The ones that we're familiar with today.
Yeah.
And it was mainly just Bitcoin, Ethereum, and that's it.
Yeah. That's basically, that was all there. I mean, Cardano was around, but nothing, they didn't, but they weren't, what are some of these, let's see. Well, I mean, I definitely, I looked through, and before we kind of dive in, I saw some stuff. Like, I know that you have there's a game, there's a blockchain game that you have is DG Pals, right? That's
we're partners with that.
Yeah, you're partners with that, and that's that looks cool. That's on Polygon, correct? Or
yes. Well, it was originally, yes. That's also a long story. It tried to launch on Binance quite unsuccessfully, and then when we relaunched it, Crypto.com invested, so we launched it on Chronos to support because they were keen there, and then Chronos is a nice ecosystem as well, but a little bit small, and so we were looking at going multi-chain, and the EVM chains are easy to link up quickly. So Polygon was kind of the next one on the list.
Right.
But actually, with that, so we are actually partnered with a game studio for that. I'd say building games is not our forte.
Right.
We're Web3 guys, right?
Right.
So we were actually introduced to a founder called Samson. Also, I'd say late 2021, and he has a lot of experience. His company has a lot of experience building Web2 games, and he wanted to get into Web3. They're also huge into esports, and so we partnered we came into the company as the Web3 partner. So they develop the game, we write the smart contracts. We do the wallet connections, all the Web3 related stuff. And I'd say that partnership has been quite fruitful. We've learned a lot, especially in GameFi when it was exploding at that point in time, and then when it died, we learned a lot around it. And since then, that project has actually turned into DGV, which is Decentralized Gaming Ventures. So it's a venture studio that's targeting games. They recently got a investment from Hashed, the big VC from Korea. And it's exciting times. There's even though I say GameFi is not as hot as it is now as it was before.
Right.
There's a lot of momentum in the space around Web2 games, looking at the technology, how they can employ it for their existing. So it's very.
There seems to be, and I'm not a huge gamer, but it seems to be that there's some tribalism with the traditional gaming and moving into sort of the Web3 gaming. There's a rough transition that's happening, but it seems to be happening. And that idea of play to earn and being able to kind of, where everybody kind of owns a piece of the whole experience, right? The users own it, and it's kind of like wrestling a bit of the power from maybe the gaming studios to the developers that are actually building the games. Is that kind of what's happening in Web3 gaming?
Well, I won't say from the big studios to the developers. I'd say it's from the games to the users.
Right.
Right now, if you're playing most of the Web2 games and if you're in Counter-Strike and you're collecting items, you're counting on Counter-Strike not going out of business tomorrow and shutting down, right?
Right.
If you're able to own your own items, that's great. I think there are other use cases potentially for where maybe certain games want to log transactions on the chain. I think online gambling has that potential, although that's kind of sensitive in certain jurisdictions.
Right.
But I think it's really untapped in the sense that we're still kind of think of us in the stage of mobile phones before smartphones, right? You can text message and you can play Snake, but you can't really do much else with your phone. I kind of feel like that's where Web3 is still,
Right.
And for all the game developers, there's a whole ton of things that concepts that will be employed that we don't even know of today. That when they bring in their teams and they start dreaming about it and playing with the technology, I think those will unfold.
So this decentralized gaming ventures, is this this is a multi-chain ventures? This you're looking at all the different chains. I mean, Algorand is obviously good technology for games, and I mean, there's several fast. Solana would also probably qualify. Lots of different chains would qualify as a good place to have games. But is that something? Is this a brand new thing? Is this or has decentralized gaming ventures been around for a while?
Well, it's DigiPal's the game that has evolved into a venture studio. So the DigiPal's the game is still there.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'd say the venture studio side of it is very new, and it's actually being led by Samson and a few other guys. I'd say Mike and myself are a little bit quieter on that end because we've got our hands full with Algo Foundry. I actually have a board meeting with them in 2 days, so we're active enough, but not on a daily basis.
Got it.
But our development teams are active there with the development of all the web elements.
That's cool. So Algo Foundry, let's get back to that. So Algo Foundry is an educational platform for developers. You start building things, and then there's almost more than I can remember. I mean, I know there's Algo Ray. Is it Rai or Ray?
Algo Rai.
Algo Rai. I can't get that right for some reason. But Algo Rai, there's Algo Safe, there's Messina Bridge. Now we have Messina has just launched liquid, and we're going to obviously talk about the liquid staking on Algorand from Messina, which I saw a tweet has I just passed 1 million Algo staked using. I mean, this is a brand new thing, so that's fantastic. Yep. And there's probably some more that I didn't mention, but so what are some of these? Well, let's talk about the Messina Bridge, because there's a lot of exciting things happening. I tweeted yesterday about USDC. We all complain about how you can't really get USDC easily off of the Algorand blockchain, certainly over here in the States. And I think a lot of the guys are complaining about Coinbase not supporting it on the Algorand blockchain. But Messina gives everybody a very easy path. If you want to go, for example, from Algorand to Base to Coinbase, that's all relatively cheap and free. So for anybody watching that wants to know that information, it's a good way to do it. There's other ways as well. You don't have to use Base. But my point is that Messina Bridge has just sort of popped up, and it's creating a lot of interoperability opportunities. You guys bridged over Pepe. That
was fun.
That was fun, right? That was good. But okay, so let's talk about Messina, what your plans are. Let's talk about liquid staking and mALGO. Let's kind of dive in there.
Okay. So I guess let me start with the thesis behind Messina so that it kind of frames the conversation.
Great.
We actually started the idea of Messina 2 years ago, and it was an internal project. And it was actually internally titled, "How do I get my grandmother into Web3?"
Right.
I mean, the Web3 experience is tough, man.
Yes.
Right? Like wallets and private keys, and every dApp has a different UI that you have to learn. It's tough, right? Yeah. And we kind of had this idea that like if the user experience doesn't improve, it doesn't matter how good the tech is, right? You're not going to get my grandmother into Web3, right? Yeah. Similar to iPhones, right? When the first iPhone came out, I bought it. It was a novelty. It was cool. But you didn't see real mass market penetration until like the iPhone 5 or 6, right? You had to get 5G internet up. You had to get the App Store going. So there was a lot of things about the user experience there that had to be built. And we have the same idea around Web3. So when we first got into it, we were doing this. This was a UI experiment. And I think the idea here is the tech should facilitate the UI, the user experience, not the other way around, right? Right. Don't build tech for the sake of tech. Right. And interoperability is obviously a massive problem between chains. Just on MetaMask alone, even with all the different EVM chains, if you're not, knowing which chain you're on and moving between, and it's a hassle. Yeah. So when the
potentially dangerous, right? I mean, potentially sending your money to the wrong place. You don't know what you're doing. Yeah, all that. Right. Yeah.
So in 2021, the Algorand Foundation had a super grant out for bridges, and we were already looking at bridging technology and how it could facilitate the user experience. So we put in for a grant, and we got it. We were one of I think 7 back then that were approved, and we were looking at so what is the best tech out there, and honestly, that was Wormhole. Wormhole had had already been up for a little while, even though they got that one hack one time.
Yeah.
But they, that was actually not so much a hack of the bridge; it was actually a problem on the Solana side. Um, and so we asked ourselves, like, what is the biggest problem with bridging? I think the biggest problem with bridging is actually not moving between chains. It is the fact that the tokens are mainly wrapped. So when they get to the other chain, there's no functionality.
And no liquidity. Yeah.
Right. So then what's the point of bringing the chain over, the token over, if you can't use it, right?
Right.
So that's when Mike and I. So you've met Mike, right? My partner.
Yeah.
Most of our best ideas are dreamt up at the dining table in the office over some bottles of wine.
Yeah. Those are the best ideas come from that sometimes.
Indeed.
And some of the worst ideas too, by the way. Yeah.
I've got a few of those too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when the idea of, what's more important to bridging is being able to provide functionality to the bridge tokens, right?
Right.
So that's when we thought, building liquidity pools on top of the messaging layer would facilitate that. And it's not. I mean, I can't say it's a new idea. We're not. I mean, I would love to call ourselves trailblazers, but we're not, right?
Right.
I mean, Stargate Finance is already up. They do that, similarly.
So maybe for people that don't quite understand what you're saying here is that, so what is it that Messina is doing that is helping provide that kind of liquidity on both sides?
So we have liquidity pools built on top of the messaging layer.
Got
so
it.
What happens is you have to deposit tokens for them to be released on the other side, right? So like, for example, with our USDC pools, we have native USDC sitting in Avalanche, Polygon, Algorand, Ethereum, now Base, Optimism, Arbitrum. And what happens is when you go in to bridge your USDC, you're depositing it in, say, the Ethereum side of the pool. And then a messaging layer tells the Algorand pool, hey, we got the money, send it out. And you're getting native USDC out of that pool.
Got it.
So the limitation of that, frankly, is liquidity.
Right? Yes.
You have to be able to have enough liquidity to facilitate all the movement.
Right.
So
if everybody is making a mass exit out of Avalanche, not everybody might be able to get out if it all happened at once, type of thing.
Right. But I mean, so that's why we are actually building the liquidity pools to be public, so that people can, in a couple of months' time, participate in a deposit, provide liquidity in exchange for a share of the fees, which is kind of what you can do on Stargate right now.
Right.
Except that I think we have a few chains. We have a different approach to it than Stargate, and that's really kind of the share the love idea in exchange for liquidity. But the focus of it is bringing functionality, for that user experience.
Absolutely. So I mean, that's fantastic. So you're not like stuck with if you're moving from Algorand to Base, for example, you're not stuck with like WHRTLZK USDC that has no liquidity on Base. You just have USDC on Base,
right?
As
it circle issued USDC.
Yeah, and what you're saying is the limitation is that maybe you might only be able to send. If the liquidity is low, you might be able to send only $5,000 or something. You might not be able to send your $250,000 or whatever.
Well, in the near future, we hope to be able to facilitate that once the public pools are open.
Yeah, and that's the solution, right? So now I can give you. I'm not trying to move, but I can deposit 10,000 USDCA on the Algorand side and earn a part of the fees. So that's cool.
Coming in future. Yes.
And how does and the Messina bridge? It's secure. I mean, I'm sure it's been audited and it's secured by smart contracts. And how can everybody trust the Messina bridge?
So it's completely decentralized. Like I said, it's built on top of Wormhole. So the messaging layer is a very, very well-known, audited, respected player in the space. And all of our contracts that are on top of that have been audited by Kudelski Security.
Okay, cool.
They're pretty renowned firm. I was actually, when I got to know more about them, it kind of blew me away. I think most people don't know the background of Kudelski Security, and I would highly encourage them to go and just Google it. It's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, I actually don't know the background for Kudelski Security, so I will Google it.
Well, quick plug, not to spoil it, but they've actually been around for 60, 70 years.
Oh wow.
And there's a very high chance that what you're watching on cable is actually secured by them.
Oh cool. So they have their hands in everything.
Yeah, their main business is actually like cable security, internet security. Like I think they secure the security feed for the English Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Oh,
they're
cool.
pretty big players. They know what they're doing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice. And you mentioned it, and I think people might have heard it because I do think that people hear wormhole. I mean, wormhole is the backbone to a lot of these things. So it clearly delivers and has been secure for a long time. But we do remember that hack, and it was a big one.
yeah.
A rather
Couple
large.
hundred million. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and I do remember it being more on the Solana. There was something with the Solana side. Can you break down just real quick what did happen there for people
Well,
that are wondering?
yeah. I mean, I honestly, it's been a while, so I can't remember the exact details.
Yeah.
But I do know that it was something to do with the smart contracts on the Solana side. I mean, because
Mhm.
Solana is unique in the sense that it's on Rust, which back then particularly was not particularly well utilized widely. Um,
Yeah.
and there was a flaw, I think, in the smart contract. There was a attack vector that somebody exploited, but that wasn't the messaging layer as a whole. That was on the Solana, just the Solana smart contract side.
Right. So, okay. So back to this theme of, DeFi or, Web3 that your grandma can use.
Yeah,
Uh, you guys so you're doing this with Messina Bridge, which is going to help people be able to move around. You mean your grandma doesn't want to just be on Algorand. Your grandma might want to be on base as well. She's heard of, Brian Armstrong and she thinks,
yeah,
oh, this is be good over there too. But also with staking, right? With liquid staking on Algorand, you have mALGO, which I mean, from what I know about it, is also just trying to make staking an Algorand, being a governor, is trying to make that easy, and it's trying to make it so you don't have to, unstake and then restake. You can kind of let it rest, and
yeah.
it keeps on accruing the reward. So yeah, why don't you talk about why Messina decided to get into liquid staking and potentially how it sets itself apart from the other liquid staking on Folks Finance?
Yeah. So we for a while now it's primarily been between AlgoFi and Folks Finance, right? They
Yeah.
were the pioneers of it.
Hmm.
And then when AlgoFi decided to shut down,
Hmm.
we were actually keeping tabs on them from like early part of this year already. And when they decided to shut down, we thought to ourselves, okay, there's only one um, liquor governance left, and
Hmm.
I think it's always good to have competition, especially in the nascent space.
Yeah.
Uh, and we actually experienced some, I guess, a bit of trouble ourselves because we built Algorand.
Hmm.
We worked with Edward Lashinsky, who's the founder of that protocol,
Hmm.
and that's a DOV, a decentralized options vault.
Hmm.
And what happens with Algo, which we had a vault open for that, is that every quarter you would have to withdraw the liquidity because you have to unstake or redeem the Algo to restake it for the following quarter's rewards. And so
Hmm.
you see like this chart that's really ugly, right? Like you see the TV up, and then for like
Yeah.
3 days, or a week or something like that, right?
We're
Or
seeing we saw somebody fudding Algorand, a bigger
yeah,
account
today,
fudding Algorand today. Yeah, Mr.
yeah.
Huber or something. Yeah, yeah.
That like I mean, and people like it's unique to Algorand. This doesn't happen anywhere else,
Right.
you know. So people don't get it. That's why that guy was like fighting it, right? But
Yeah.
I mean, that's just the way it was built. I mean, I'm sure there were technical reasons for that, or business reasons as well, commercial. But
Hmm.
over at Algorand, we thought that was a problem. It's a problem for the platform because it doesn't have liquidity for that period of time, and you're not certain that the liquidity will return, right?
Right. Right.
And then on the other side of that, it's inconvenient for the holders. Like
Hmm.
I honestly, and I mean, I like to think that I'm, a mediumly advanced user of DeFi.
Yeah.
Um, so the first time I got some Algo, I honestly didn't read it properly, and I didn't realize that you had to unstake it and restake it to get the following quarter's rewards. So I got the first quarter, and
Right.
then the following quarter, I was like, "Hey, where are my rewards?" And I was like, then when I read the documents, I was like, "Oh shit! Like I didn't read it properly."
So now I'm
And
just stuck with my Gialgo until the end of the quarter. Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
So for these reasons, we kind of thought to ourselves, and then we saw what's happening with liquid staking on Ethereum and on Polygon, and how big
Mhm.
that is, climbed, right? Like out of nowhere, it's the biggest category on DeFi Llama right now,
Yeah.
and that's because I think it solves a real problem, right? Um, on our side, it's for governance. On Ethereum side, it's for consensus, right?
Right.
For securing the chain. But ultimately, people still want to, participate in DeFi. And if
Mhm.
you're locking away all your tokens in governance, like I think before liquid staking came to Algorand, that was probably one of the biggest hurdles to getting TVL, because
Yeah.
you could just deposit into governance and get a risk-free 8% APY. Why would
Mhm.
you take risks even for 12%?
Yeah.
Right.
I know.
So I mean, yeah, when this, when AlgoFi and Folks Finance did it, I think that's when TVL shot up. So I think it's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
And but we like this version where, again, our thesis of helping your grandmother, right? You
Yeah.
don't have to do anything. Convenience is the number one concern, right?
Right.
Uh, you stake it, and it will just accrue rewards indefinitely until either the foundation stops the program or you decide, right? Um,
Yeah, and
and
something that, and maybe and I don't quite have a question, but maybe an observation, and maybe you can elucidate if there's something there. Is with mALGO, I mean, it's going to be accruing value. So an mALGO essentially will be worth. You can break down how that works, but it's going to be in end. It's going to be worth more than one algo if you hold on to
yes,
it for a while. And then something like GAlgo, certainly during the period, and depending on what point in the period, it's usually trading at less than an algo. So if you actually want to swap out of GAlgo, you have to you pay a premium. And I could imagine on something like Algo Ray or
I'll go right.
oh my god.
It's all good, man.
It, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Sorry, Algo Rai. And I remember there was a trading platform that got in a bunch of trouble. They left real quick, but they got in a bunch of
Paradex.
trouble. Daredex, that's what it was, and they had some issues because of that same exact problem. So, do you see mAlgo being able to fit in there in a way that solves some of these issues, or is it just a completely different thing?
Well, I mean, I think it's all actually quite different.
Yeah.
So for example, Duradex was a perp dex, right? So it was allowing people to trade derivatives openly.
Right.
Um, Obviously, if that will be in the crosshairs of any regulator.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, a little bit of a concern.
Yeah.
With Algorand, it is not that at all. I mean,
Yeah.
it does participate in options, but what you're actually doing is you are staking in a vault, and
Hmm.
then you have a algorithmically designed vault that was designed by a familiar trader, kind of fund manager sort, although it's not a
Hmm.
fund management situation. And what you're doing is you're basically selling options. You're actually auctioning off options to
Hmm.
um, market makers every Friday, right?
Hmm.
So these market makers are the ones who are buying the options,
Hmm.
and they're the auction process makes it competitive.
Hmm.
Um, and so it's not a retail trading situation at all,
Right.
right? So the I'd say the risk factors in that are very different. The expectations around it are completely different from what Deradex is doing.
Hmm.
And I think mAlgo um, will actually, because of the fact that it accrues rewards, and it's I don't want to call it an interest bearing asset, but it's basically um, an interest accruing asset.
Right.
Uh, it kind of opens up a whole new dimension of financial products that can happen,
Right.
right? Like Ed, so I love having worked with Ed because I am not a financial professional by any means. So
Okay.
having worked with him for 2 years has been just such a great learning experience every time I get to talk to him. So and some of these are pretty basic. I get like after I talk to him, I Google and I see it. I'm like, oh shit, I should just Google instead of talk to him first.
Why did I make myself look like that to him? Damn it! I could have just Googled it. Yeah.
Right. But I think the whole basis is in crypto before the idea of earning rewards. That there was practically no risk-free interest rate.
Hmm.
So how do you? I mean, the basis of a yield curve is typically from some form of risk-free interest rate, and then there's a comparison that's made off of that, and then people can design, more risky products and what that yield curve would look like compared to a risk-free product. So it's
Right.
kind of like what treasuries do for the rest of the financial market, right?
Mm-hmm.
mALGO is effectively similar to staked ETH on Lido, is creating that yield curve, going to create that yield curve for Algorand, right?
Yeah.
You would have a product that accrues the rewards constantly, where you can predict what the interest would be over a period of time. You know that it's risk free. We just have to make sure that we all vote.
Yeah.
And then from there you have a basis of comparison for, let's say, if there was an institution who's buying options and there is a risk, right? Then you compare that risk to what's the risk-free rate, and a whole new, I think, category of products will spring from this, I believe.
Right. Yeah. And so kind of play it out a little bit. What are some other products that you could see mALGO being a tool for?
Well, I mean, I think, again, I'm not going to profess to be a visionary. You just look at what's happening on Ethereum, right? And some of the stuff that's come out of liquid staking. I mean, there's a new product called Athena that hasn't launched, but announced that it raised and came out a couple of months ago, where basically they're creating a stable coin backed by liquid staking assets. And the way that they're keeping it stable is they're using the interest generated to hedge, either through perpetual options or futures or whatnot, right?
Right.
Now, do I know that it's going to work out? I don't know. I'm not a financial expert, right? But it's a
Right.
very interesting idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we all went through the whole FTX debacle and how during that period, remember Circle, there was fears about Circle for a couple of days, a weekend, because it's centralized and all that, and then Tether got tested and stuff, and the idea of having a truly decentralized stablecoin, I guess it obviously is sprung from that. More the appeal got higher because of that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so Algo Rye, right? Yeah.
Yep. You got it.
Uh, okay, so and then you have another product that's not on Algorand, and it's Brill Finance. Are you just investors in Brill Finance, or is that come from you guys as well?
No, we are investors and the original development team.
Oh, you are.
Yes.
And that's on a different. That's on. Is that on Say? Is that on the Say blockchain?
Well, it's. I'd say when we first started development, it was on Binance. I think Say hadn't launched then, and now it's looking at other chains.
Oh, okay, so it's already in action, and that's a similar. Is that a similar type of product, or is that a completely different type of product than Algo Rye?
Well, it's quite different. I mean, because Algorand is effectively structured products.
Right.
So whether it uses options or some form of interest accruing facility, and then it's kind of combination of those things, and then it presents a strategy, and people choose to invest in that strategy or not.
Right. Yeah, you can there's a bull strategy, there's a bear strategy. They make it pretty intuitive for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, I mean, I've had a lot of internal discussions about how we name things or how it's being named there.
Right.
I mean, I should bring you in for one of those. Have a couple of beers and see what sticks on the wall, right?
Yeah, like which one will get people to understand what they're doing, right? Because that is like sometimes I'll go into these, I'll go in there and I'll be like, okay, wait, am I betting? Is this do I think the price is going up or down? I don't want to make the mistake. That's the problem, right?
When we first started working on options products, I don't think I really understood that for 6 months.
Exactly.
And when we first launched Algorand, it was like calls and puts, like the technical terms, right?
Right.
And I struggled to get it for like the first 6 months, and I knew most people would have trouble. So we really tried to look at what would the more average person be able to get quickly, right?
Well,
and it's still a journey, still a challenge.
Well, yeah, those types of products are, they're different. Your grandma may never end up, over there. She might not necessarily be there, but you do want people that are looking at these products, and especially something like that does a lot of the work for you. You want it to be accessible to people so they understand what they're getting into. Obviously,
Absolutely. I mean, the idea with a structured product is, it's a strategy that's been vetted by a financial professional,
hmm
and obviously there is potential for ups and downs,
hmm
but it should be something that is easy for you. It's
hmm
meant to be fuss free, not something you have to obsess over and click every 20 minutes on.
hmm
And actually, one of my favorite products on that is token accumulators.
hmm
So if you think about it, on a DEX, for example, we have the concept of limit orders, right?
hmm
So you set a price that you want to buy something at. So if you think Bitcoin's going down, like today it's up a lot. So let's say you think it's going down to 25K, you put a
hmm
limit order for 25K, right? How
hmm
much you're willing to pay, and then you just wait. So your
Yeah.
money sits there, and it doesn't earn anything, and if it happens to drop, you buy at that price, right?
Right.
Well, I mean, if you just sold a put option, what would happen is the put option could be set at that price, and a market maker would pay you a premium every week until it hit that point. And so
Right.
you would actually earn a yield week on week as opposed to just leaving your money to sit there with a limit order,
Right.
right? So it's like, what do you want to do to get the same result? Like what would give you a better return? I think
Right.
token accumulators are, for people who are looking to get into the market, but not too sure at this price yet. Token accumulators are a great way to earn some yield while you're waiting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's actually a really great way to put it. And then I brought up Brill Finance. So that's different in the sense that you can provide one-sided liquidity. So I can put in like just one token, right? And then believe me, and correct me if I get this wrong, but you can put in, because I've never used it, but you can put in one token, and then the platform in some way is going to provide liquidity throughout DeFi in a concentrated way and get you a higher yield, basically, because of the sophistication of the algorithm or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, actually, this idea was really driven forward by Uniswap's V3,
hmm
right? Previously with Uniswap, you just park your money there, and
Yeah.
you just hope and pray and see what happens. And
Yeah.
and the thing with Dexes is impermanent loss is a real risk, right?
Yeah.
And so V3 basically said, hey, you can park your money just at this range, right?
Yeah.
And you'll get the yield from this range. And if it goes out of the range, you're not providing liquidity anymore,
Right. And
right?
so what
So
is
then,
it when you go out of the range? It just kicks you, like if it's on one side, it kicks you entirely into one token, and then if it's in another side, it kicks you entirely into that token, right?
right,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you don't trade past that point anymore,
Yeah.
right? And that actually allowed people to optimize their yield,
Yeah.
right? But I mean, when you're now trading within ranges, it is a very active asset management strategy, right? Because you got to
Yes.
keep optimizing for which band you're in and how much you're providing, and
hmm
etc. It's
Yeah.
not for the average person, right?
No, and especially on something like Ethereum and Uniswap, it's not like a small guy with $1,000 of liquidity is going to be,
Right,
on Uniswap paying those fees when within those small ranges. Because the
right.
smaller the range, the higher the yield, obviously, right?
One mostly yes, not necessarily, but mostly
Okay,
yes.
okay,
Yeah. But
okay.
yeah, the idea with Real Finance is it's a asset yield optimization, so that it's constantly doing that job for you, looking at where's the best, uh, you know, how do best ranges to deploy to get the best
hmm
yield. Yeah.
And that was launched on Binance and is going to be and is now looking to go cross chain. Is that the journey for it,
Yes, it's
or
looking to go cross chain.
cool?
Yes, but we
And
are actually not active on that product anymore.
oh, you're not active on that product
Yeah.
anymore. Gotcha.
The
Gotcha.
way the venture studio works is we meet founders who have an
hmm
idea,
hmm
right? We have so that like over at Undercurrent and Algo Foundry, we have like more than 60 developers in house. We got a whole bunch of teams. We've
Right.
also got UI, UX, DevOps, QA. We've got marketing, operations, some
hmm
HR and finance. So the idea is when somebody we meet a founder with a dream,
hmm
and we like it. We believe in it too. we're here to help them bring it to market as quickly as possible. Right? You don't have to raise money, hire from scratch, build a culture, blah blah blah. You come to us, we're able to deploy a dev team within 1 week. You get UI UX designers who have worked with each other and know what they're doing to get designs out quickly and really just put your product out there and test the market, right? See if your product market fit. It also helps helps founders to get to a point where they can speak to investors. And we obviously go with them and guide them through that process, try and tell them if their deck sucks or not, or what not to say.
Yeah.
Before you go in, bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's what the Venture Studio is really built to do. It's built to help founders build the ideas quick, test them quick. And I mean, if you're gonna fail quick, so you can move on, right? And
right. That's good advice. That's good, like, aggressive advice. Like, fail quick, because then you can just adjust, and then you can you can fail again. Yeah, then you can do it, and you pivot. Yeah. Well, okay. So you mentioned we were talking about mALGO, and then I kind of brought us off topic. But so that is just launching right now. You have where are you? What are your? And you also mentioned bringing competition, and competition is a great thing. You were tracking AlgoFi. Is there a money market in Algo Foundry's future?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been a rumor about that going around, but we are not actively looking at a money market solution right now.
Okay. But we do. It wouldn't be. I think it would be well received for sure.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I must admit, I think one of the things that everybody loved about AlgoFi, like the common feedback I get is, everybody loved the UX, the user interface experience, right?
Yeah.
It was easy, it was straightforward. That's actually not an easy thing to design.
Yeah.
Truthfully, I think especially founders, we are all guilty of over engineering. Like, we've got so many ideas just bursting out, and you want to put them in the design, and next thing you know, it's like you're completely filled, and people are there like, what am I supposed to look at? There's too much on the screen.
Yeah. And then exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I think AlgoFi, credit to them, when they were there, they did a fantastic job, and it was reflected the fact that they were number one in DeFi Llama. And they had some other tools there. But unfortunately, we are not looking at a lending market right now. We have some other priorities.
You have some other things.
But mALGO, like I said, it came about because we saw a need, right? The convenience factor, the whole idea of not dropping TVL every quarter. These are things that we face as problems ourselves. And I think that having liquid staking is a simple, interest-free, risk-free, interest-bearing asset that is the cornerstone of DeFi. And it's for the average people to be able to get in, just earn something, even if it's not like 1,000% through the roof, no degen shit, right? And it's easy for them to enter Web3. So that it fits the thesis of Messina. And that's why we once, I think we were going to build it yet, but when AlgoFi went down, we were like, okay, we got to push this up the priority list. So we're very, very excited to get it out.
Absolutely. And you guys have it out. You have it out in time for this quarter. It's available for everybody to use right now. And like you said, that there's going to be vault, or did you say there are vaults for mALGO on Algorand, right?
Yes, there is an mALGO vault on Algorand, and we are actively working with some partners to make sure there's more utility. So I just actually spoke with Folks Finance, Benedetto. I mean, despite the fact that we're kind of competing, I think I have a lot of respect for them and for Benedetto's particularly. I think what they built is really good in its own way. And I spoke to him and said, hey, look, I'd love to open a lending pool on Folks Finance for mALGO, and he was game for it.
Cool. See, that's nice. I mean, you're competing, but you're also working together. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, might as well take the lending fees, right? Why not? And we're all buddies, so
right. You're all working towards you're all working, with the foundation to create and build and instigate more adoption for Algorand. So more options is going to be better for people, and different different levels of engagement. Like you're saying, some people don't want to have to stake and restake at every quarter. They don't want to burn. They don't want to do all of that. They don't want to forget. Maybe even not vote. And now, what's the voting structure when you hold mALGO? Or do you have to vote? Does Messina do it for you?
Okay, so I mean, this was one of the contentious things when we were coming up with the idea, because we were, again, AlgoFi went down. We had to build this in a rush, so we
Yeah.
were like, okay, what are we gonna do, right?
Yeah.
So we haven't gotten the voting piece up yet, and so in a worst case scenario, we will vote on behalf of all the holders, and the idea is that we would go along with what is the majority that is already voting on Algorand, right? But ultimately, we do want to give people their voice, so we will be building a voting platform so that people or holders of mALGO will be able to exercise their vote, and then that will be put on chain for them.
Got it. So what you're saying is, in the event for this first voting period that you don't have that up and running, you're going to try to not tilt the vote, basically.
Well, I mean, I think so me and Kevin have had a lot of conversations about this, and I think one of the ideas is that we would host regular spaces, and people could come in and kind of voice their thoughts, right? And if there was really strong opposition to what was the majority vote at present, then we would consider to do something about that. But if not, then we would go with what the majority had already voted, especially if it was overwhelming. That's kind of a no-brainer.
Got it.
But that is the contingency. So my dev team, now that we've already got it up, is very actively trying to meet the next deadline, which is have voting up before December, which is when the voting typically happens.
Yeah.
So that doesn't have to come to pass, and people can use their voice, basically.
Yeah. But in the spirit of being transparent, you guys are saying, look, this is the approach, but hopefully we get it going and it's secure and we're able to just let the users vote. Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't feel good about it if we didn't tell people the contingency. We missed the date and we end up doing that. They didn't know ahead of time. I think that's not honest, right? So we just put that out there. Hopefully we won't use it, right? That's the card up the sleeve, in the back pocket, whatever, that we're hoping we don't have to use.
And so something just to pivot, and we can always go back to Messina Bridge if there's something we left out, but something that I don't think many people know about is a tool called Algo Safe. And I think something that people complain about with Algorand a lot of times is that there aren't tools for organizations, or it's like hard to set up like a multi-sig situation, and Algo Safe sort of addresses that, doesn't it?
Yes. Well, so again, this is a product from our experiences, right? Well, I think most of the things we end up building are because we face problems ourselves.
Right.
So one of the products that we had helped build was a DEX called WagMeSwap. So we actually helped build that.
Right. And then and that ended up didn't Yieldly end up taking that, or what happened with WagMeSwap?
So we were just developers on that. We didn't have any equity piece in it, and I think the challenge that they faced there, the operating team, was just getting TVL. By the time it was built, Tiny Man was up. They were going really strong. I think we were the second DEX up, but we had lost momentum, and Pat came out of nowhere. So they struggled to raise TVL, and so the trading experience was not amazing.
Yeah.
And then they decided to find a partner to try and get stronger with, and Yieldly at the point in time was one of the stronger players in Algorand.
Yeah.
So they were an obvious choice, and then the dev team or the operating team decided to partner with them. Unfortunately, that didn't go any further.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, WagMeSwap was one of the products that we
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like I said, there were a couple of things that didn't take off very well.
Yeah.
And so sorry, go on.
Oh no, I sort of derailed you with the Yieldly thing. You were talking about we were talking about Algo Safe.
Right. So one of the problems that we faced was big whales were not able to deploy TVL without a multi-sig, just in terms of their corporate governance, and there wasn't a multi-sig that could work with the DEXs back then. You know, and so that was a real problem. And then later on, mALGO came out with their multi-sigs, and that made life better for everyone.
Right.
Truthfully speaking, but then unfortunately they went through their hardship, and I don't know what the future of their future is. But when mALGO, and we were using mALGO multi-sigs for pretty much everything.
Right.
So when they went through their pain, all of a sudden we were like, shit, there isn't an alternative in Algorand. And this is what happens when you have a monopoly situation, right? When there's only one player, if it happens, we're all screwed.
Yeah.
And so we very quickly threw a team together and actually built the multi-sigs initially just for ourselves, because we needed it for good governance with all the projects we were working on.
Yeah.
And then internally we were like, well, then why don't we put this product out there so that other people can use it too? Because I'm sure we're not the only ones facing that problem.
Right.
So originally it was called Foundry Safe, because we're developers first and not terribly good at branding. We weren't very imaginative because it was coming quick.
Yeah.
And so now it's Algo Safe. And the other thing was that because when mALGO was the primary use case for Ledger users. If you had a Ledger, you didn't have many options. Now you do. I'd say DFly and Para provide support for Ledger, but personally, and this is not to knock those guys, I didn't like that experience. I prefer doing it on a desktop and all the rest of those things. And Para came out with their desktop, which I'm not a fan of.
No.
Somebody at the foundation who hears this, don't shoot me. The mobile app's great.
Yeah, the mobile, the desktop is not good. Yeah. I mean, it's gotten better. I mean, it connects most times now, but for a while there, I couldn't even get it to connect. So that was frustrating. Yeah.
So we, with Algo Safe, we threw on Ledger integration. And so, like I said, we've been building our products really because of our own experiences and our own needs. So Algo Safe, as a multi-sig, is actually pretty much very similar to Gnosis, which is the most popular multi-sig on Ethereum.
Nice.
It's really easy to deploy. We don't even charge fees on it, to be honest. This is kind of like a charitable product that we put out into the ecosystem just because we needed it ourselves.
Yeah.
And we've been actively developing the functionality based on, our experiences with using it every single day. And adding the Ledger integration has actually made it a lot more useful for me as well. Personally, I use it every single day now. Paying staff, paying vendors, receiving payments from customers. I have a very heavy hand in actually the user interface of it.
Yeah.
Every time I don't like something, I go straight to the designer and I'm like, move that button 3 pixels.
You're like, so this is like the product that you use all the time. It's so just so people out there understand, if they were trying to build a small business on Algorand, and there's a few people in charge. I mean, people I think understand what a multi-sig is, but at the same time, like this is a tool that I don't think that many people understand. So like, let's say you have an NFT project where there's an artist, there's a creator, like let's say me, right? I'm Coop, and I have a NFT artist, and then I get a portion of it, and then somebody else is like a developer, and we're all sort of splitting this. We'll have a multi-sig, and then we can receive there, and then it can pay out to different wallets. I mean, does it do all of these type of DAO? Does it have this type of DAO functionality?
Well, I wouldn't call it DAO functionality, but yes,
okay.
It has all the functionality for an environment where you've got multiple people and you need compliance or good governance.
Yeah.
Right. You can set like a 3 out of 5, 2 out of 3, however many signatories. It's like a bank scenario where you've got more than one signatory, right?
Right.
You don't have to have everyone assign, or you could if you wanted to. And all your assets are safe there. But I'll tell you, Coop, like personally, I think that it's not just for businesses or users. Like it's a little bit tedious, but for everybody's own safety, I personally recommend every user to have a multi-sig safe for themselves. And I think the mALGO hack was a key reason why this should be.
Right.
If your wallet gets compromised, you're done. right?
Yeah.
You're just gonna watch it drain, and you're gonna be very upset.
Yeah.
With a multi-sig, I'm not saying that it's bulletproof, but it's that much harder to hack you.
Yeah.
If he gets control of one wallet, there's still other devices that need to sign so that you can get drained. And you can
Yeah.
always go in with the other devices and remove that wallet that has been compromised.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, again, it's probably something that people wouldn't use on a daily basis for themselves.
Right.
And you could use it in place of a ledger,
Mm-hmm.
or if you're scared of losing the ledger, then use it. Use it in place of the ledger.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a great way for people to store their own private digital assets.
Mm-hmm.
So you maybe have a phone and your desktop, and maybe another phone somewhere, right? And you use all of these to sign. So if you lost one or one wallet was compromised,
Mm-hmm.
you're still safe.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And that's
Yeah.
where you would keep, like, you might use your safe for, I mean, would use it for governance, and then that's the only thing you really do with it, and then it's like your home base, or how.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, if you're holding NFTs long term, if
Yeah.
you're holding anything that isn't
Yeah.
going to be traded, I'd say in the next 7 days.
Yeah.
I mean,
Might as
think of it
well.
like cold storage. Yeah, just
Yeah.
put it in a safe. You know.
Yeah. Okay. I should probably be more careful. Uh, I mean, I'm pretty careful, but I should be more
Well,
careful.
I mean, back when stuff was all kind of in the early days, they always say if you haven't been hacked once, you're not really in crypto, right?
Right.
So
So okay. So
I'm not advocating for anyone to get hacked, but I'm just saying,
yeah.
you know, we've all been through it. We know the potential hardships.
Yeah.
I think this is just one extra way to prevent yourself from getting hacked, and that's why I personally push this for retail users. Like, I think businesses already know this; they're already onto it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, just secure yourself. No harm done.
Yeah, I mean, and we saw, by the way, we saw with the mALGO hack, how lax even some projects were. Lots of money on just hot wallets, and you saw some. I think we all talk about not your keys, not your crypto. We talk about cold storage, but in the end, people are very tempted by convenience,
Indeed.
and are very busy, and so, or feel very busy and feel like, oh, it's gonna be fine. It'll be fine. I'll do it some other time. But it's probably wise for everybody, especially in these volatile times, right, where things can change. Lots of hacks are happening, prices can fluctuate. I don't know. That seems like in those times, that's when a lot of the bad stuff happens. So yeah, protect your stuff.
Yeah.
Protect your stuff. Yeah, and
100%.
AlgoSafe is a free tool that you can go learn how to use and help protect yourself on Algorand.
Yeah.
So what did I miss other than mispronouncing Algo Rye so many times? What what did I miss?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of products that we're
Yeah.
working on in the background that,
Mm-hmm.
as a venture studio, I'd say part of our mission is to help the foundation build out key infrastructure pieces or parts of the ecosystem that maybe, Algorand doesn't have yet. So that's why,
Mm-hmm.
like, actually, Algo Rye as a DOV was identified as a need,
Mm-hmm.
actually. And then we met Edward Lashinsky, who, just by chance had all the experience in the world, had a vision for pretty much what we were exactly looking for, and then we
Mm-hmm.
worked together with him to build it. But we're also trying to advance the cause of Algorand, I'd say, with corporates and with non-degens.
Yeah.
So, like, we actually built a digital bond product
Mm-hmm.
for a brokerage in Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's actually a walled garden, so you wouldn't have heard of it.
Yeah.
You can't actually use it unless you're a customer of the brokerage. It's full KYC AML, but they're
Mm-hmm.
actually using the Algorand blockchain for the ledger aspects of it, and I think right now it has more than 60 million TVL.
Oh wow.
US dollars. Yeah, like, actually, if it was actually on like DeFi Llama, it would be in the top. It would probably be the top, if not top two, right now.
Wow.
So there's that, and it's being used every day. There's trading happening on it every day, but because it's not open project, we don't really talk about it too much. But that's what we're busy working with corporates and working with other people. So there's actually a charity in Singapore that we're looking at a project right now. It hasn't been confirmed, but they are looking at. So they run a bunch of senior care centers. I think they have contact with like tens of thousands of senior citizens every day. And they have devices that actually measure their vitals, so blood pressure, heart rate, height, weight, temperature, all these things, BMI, and we were looking at a project where that information would be put on chain in an encrypted manner, so that you still have your data
privacy.
security, right? And then we're working with a research firm that would use AI to actually analyze that data and, where necessary, provide intervention in case there was some medical issue it predicted might happen.
Oh, that's so cool. So, because a lot of times these people, these older people, they get left. People miss things, or they get left to kind of okay, fine. Somebody doesn't do their job correctly, but if you can utilize this technology that is constantly it's not about an individual, it's just about the data, and it can tip you off, being like, hey, there's something going on over here. That's really cool. That's
just try getting my mom to a doctor, man. It is hard.
Is it really? It's difficult to just get in there, huh?
No. I mean, not get in there.
I see what you're saying.
Mom to go.
Yeah. Oh my God, my mom I mean, that's so true. My mom almost died from an ulcer because she ignored it until it perforated. So getting my dad. Yeah, it's so true. Getting your parents, getting me to go to a doctor. Like, let's be honest. So yeah.
So this project would read their vitals 3 times a week, put it on chain, and I mean, Algorand is the chain of choice because it's so quick, it's super reliable, never gone down. Also, it's so cheap to run. I mean, for transactions, it's almost cheaper than AWS, frankly. And then the data would be there. You don't have to trust that it would go down or whatever. In an encrypted manner, the AI could read it, analyze it, and suggest interventions where necessary. And we're very excited about it. But again, it's not like a big DeFi project or game project that everybody's going to be able to participate in, right? This is you're going to use that senior center to get this. But this is the stuff that I'd say doesn't make the headlines.
Well, and I get the impression that Algorand in general has has more of these types of things in the background that people aren't exactly paying any attention to, and it's not like something, it's not it's not Starbucks or whatever, but it is actual practical use cases that literally bring adoption rather than just news articles and projects that are just big corporations trying to maybe grab a new group of users or something, or new customers because they're from Web3, but it's actually using the technology to make things better. Do you feel like that's fair?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that the basis of it is DLT, right? Distributed ledger technology, and that's really what the blockchain is. We've piled on all the economics and tokenomics and in some cases Ponzinomics of it that has led to all the headlines and maybe the rush, right?
Yeah.
There is like I said, we're at the stage where we're a Nokia 3310 and we're playing Snake on a pixelated screen, right? I think use cases for blockchain technology and digital assets to that effect is we're super infant stage. And the next 20 years will be amazing. Even the next 5, I think, will reveal so much. We're just hoping to be part of it and keep building.
Yeah, I mean, and it seems like some of this stuff, like helping people with their vitals and and assisted living or however what you were talking about, or this kind of walled garden bond project. it risks being boring, I guess. And then guys like me with the shows, it's harder to grab a crowd maybe with being
yeah. Cointelegraph isn't banging down my door trying to figure out what we're doing, right? It's like,
yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, I just looked at the time. We've been chatting forever. Thank you for.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. But before we go, because we talked about it a little bit, but you are in the center of it. We've talked a bit about some of this throughout the conversation. I mean, what is your feeling right now? I know you're in Singapore. The regulators are, I'm over here in the States, and I'm sure some of your products aren't available to us in the States. I know that Messina is and liquid staking is, but I don't know. We talked about Binance, and there's all of the FUD about CZ and just the environment, and then obviously Three Arrows Capital. You guys and Terra Luna, you're very familiar with that over there in Singapore, obviously. I mean, what do you make of the current state of the space? Are you hopeful that, obviously you can't control Gary Gensler any more than I can, but I mean, are you hopeful for this kind of, I don't know, like working out and I mean, do you think, when it comes to Binance, like make me feel better is what I'm basically desperately saying.
I have a lot of controversial thoughts on this space, and if I ever want to visit the U.S., I don't think I can say all of them here.
Okay, okay, I'll let you be able to have your travel.
No. But I mean, I'll say this, right? Like, this isn't the first time this sort of thing has played out. It's just a different industry, right?
Yeah.
And I think there are some countries that are forward thinking. There are some countries that aren't. Doesn't mean they're not forward thinking on everything. Like the U.S. leads the world in innovation and practically everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that what Gary's trying to do is has mainly been rocked because we're greedy, right? The digital assets and the Ponzonomics, like we said, and all those things have been the primary driver of the hype.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that regulation is inevitable. I think regulation is actually good in some ways. Mm-hmm. It just has to be sensible regulation, and who knows what that really looks like, right? Like it's something that we're all going to have to feel our way through in the dark and stuff. But ultimately, I think that the technology definitely has its use cases. We just have to be bold enough to dream. And like I said, we're at the Nokia stage, right? I want to see what the iPhone 15 version of blockchain looks like in a couple of years.
Absolutely.
I've got a lot of hope for the technology and for the space.
Yeah.
Right? But like everything, there are going to be a lot of growing pains, and we're going to have to kind of ride it out. And it's just one of those, if you're going to bet big, you might lose big, you might win big, but there are also people who are keeping their heads about them, being sensible about it, doing their research and just being cautious. And I think ultimately we'll make it to the other side. And who knows what will be there. We got to be bold enough to dream.
You got to be bold enough to dream. Yeah, we'll end with this. You in your Twitter bio, you say something like "shaping the world in my image," if I remember correctly. What sparked that? What do you feel philosophically behind that? How do you?
Well, when I was a child, I guess I was a bitchy little kid. So I was always like, "Hey, mom, why is that sucks? Why is it like that?" Right? I don't know. And she used to tell me, if you don't like it, how would you do it? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, don't just bitch about a problem. Come up with a solution. And that's pretty much the entire ethos that I try and run my company with. I tell everybody, you are solution architects, right? Like, doesn't matter what position you are. Don't just come with a problem. Don't just identify a problem. Dream of a solution. Yeah. And that's pretty much how we approach all of these things, and everything that we do. And so that's why I say shaping the world in my image, because it's like I'm saying, from the products that we're building, right? mALGO came from, us having TVL drop out of Algorand all the time, right? We built Algo Safe because we needed multi-sigs. A lot of the stuff that we build is because we face real world problems in our daily lives and we're trying to solve them. And I work with the design team the most, and so I guess they're wary of me. So, so a lot of it is just down to how we use it daily, and we're actually like even when we build. So I was gonna say when we build a project, the idea isn't to operate and be the dev team of that project in perpetuity.
Right.
We're a venture studio, right?
Mm-hmm.
So success for me means I help a founder build, he raises, and he builds out a whole company.
Right.
Right. And at some point, he will hire his own developers, he'll hire his own operations, and that for me is success, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like we managed to spark something that came to life.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's where we go with every project. We're hoping that it becomes a big boy and puts on a big boy pants and hires its own guys, and then we move on to the next project.
Absolutely.
That's the whole ethos.
How cool! How great it was to meet you. So, I mean, I think you you said it with Messina, the voting tool, and the most immediate. But is there anything on the roadmap that you're particularly excited about with Algo Foundry, or has that not been?
Oh, tons. I'm just I'm bursting every day. But I mean, particularly with mALGO, like we're super keen to build it out. There's a lot of functionality that I think is in the roadmap.
Mm-hmm.
Like with the bridging, I think liquidity pools will be a game changer.
Mm-hmm.
We've had a lot of chat about NFT bridging as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many things. Even with Algorand, the product options, the product strategies are going to grow significantly in the next couple of months. So there's a lot going on. But
Yeah.
yeah, super excited. I can't pinpoint just one thing, to be honest.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
Jonty, it's been a genuine pleasure. Thank you so much for taking. I mean, we almost went for 90 minutes, so that's a long time for the show.
Yeah. Thank you very much for
So
your time. I
I
appreciate you
really
waking up
appreciate it.
so early.
Of course, I appreciate you staying up late. All right. Thank you
Okay,
so
take
much,
care.
man. All
See
right.
ya. Bye.
See ya.